Gina, I'm thinking about asking Jim Comey to take out his seashells again and fashion some messages in the direction of certain House Republicans. Kim Strassel reporting on the big, beautiful bill that's forthcoming. The current House GOP standoff boils down to the usual: to spend or not to spend. The initial demands that required House leaders to set a pathetic target of $1.5 trillion in spending cuts over the next 10 years. Yeah, $1.5 trillion over the next 10 years, allowing the Joe Biden spending boom to stand and grow. Then they proceeded to throw up roadblock after roadblock in the way of even that $1.5 trillion over 10 mark. Congress remains littered with their red lines. No reining in Obamacare's Medicaid expansion. No messing with prior quote-unquote infrastructure spending. No serious overhaul of food assistance. No starting any real reform until 2029 so that lawmakers have time to roll it back. To add injury to entitlement, Strassel continues, they're demanding that any money saved be earmarked for, over their objections, be earmarked for their voters. And she's talking about this small group of blue state Republican legislators that are trying to hold the caucus hostage to increase the SALT cap on state, the deductibility of state and local taxes. It's already been increased by 3x, and that's not good enough.
It's a joke. Hey, Trump needs to come back ASAP, get back from the UAE, stop the foreign tour, and put this to rest. This, to me, will be a defining outcome of his entire presidency. It could determine the 2026, and I'm not talking about giving wealthy New Yorkers a giveaway. I'm talking about listening to his Trump base who wants the spending to stop. It's a real test right now.
David Harsanyi had a good rejoinder to this Politico headline, too. House Republican tax cuts cost $3.7 trillion, forecasters say. Harsanyi over at the Federalist has pointed out, actually, not spending doesn't cost anything. Only spending has a cost. And it's a nice retort, but it's also an important point that we talk about this in all the wrong way, and Republicans fall into the trap too, talking about our money like it's the government's money, right? Spending is what costs. Keeping our money, there's no cost to it. Yeah, that's the way it needs to be talked about. That's and reflective of a philosophy that people are committed to. But unfortunately, there are some House and Senate Republicans who are not so committed. For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined by Steve Moore, economist, author of the Trump 2.0, the plot to unleash prosperity again, or whatever. I'm so sideways with what's going on in this big, beautiful bill. Steve, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
I'm sure everybody's going to run out to the bookstores and buy it now. It's called The Trump Economic Miracle.
The Trump Economic Miracle and the plan to unleash prosperity again. Yes, of course. Yeah. Well, that plan is in real jeopardy right now, it would seem.
That's right.
Well, look, I'd give this plan maybe a B- that came out of the House. And look, we're still doing a lot of. Am I grading on a curve here? Well, it's Chicago. Come on, that's what we do in Chicago. We grade on the curve. It's so frustrating. It really is, and I feel your pain. I mean, there is no reason for any state and local tax deduction. There's no reason somebody should be able to deduct their state and local taxes from their federal taxes. All that does is encourage cities like Chicago and states like Illinois to spend, and tax, because you can write it off your federal taxes. It's not fair to people who live in low tax states. And listen, if you have a problem, I know a lot of your listeners are in the Chicago area. If you have a problem with how much your taxes are in Illinois, then don't take it up in Washington. Go to Springfield. Go to the Chicago City Hall and do something about it. Chicago spends, twice as much per person as most cities do. Where the money goes, no one knows. And so all we're doing is basically rewarding states and cities for wasting money. So incidentally, when we wrote as you know, Larry Kudlow and I wrote the very first version of the Trump tax bill in early 2016 when Trump first started running for president. And one of the things we insisted on, and that when we talked to Trump about that bill, is just get rid of as many of these deductions and loopholes as possible. And let's get rid of the state and local tax deduction. Now, we didn't get rid of it. We capped it at $10,000. So anybody, you can deduct up to $10,000 of your state and local taxes off your federal taxes. I would have had it at zero. So then we compromised with these, blue state Republicans, and there aren't that many of them left. And we said, okay, we'll double it. We'll double it to 20,000. And then they said, no, we don't go for that. So then we said, we'll triple it to 30,000. They said no. They want to completely bring back. Some of these guys want $100,000 deduction. Now, how many people do you think actually have $100,000 of state and local taxes? Not a lot. And that's, who that is? It's rich people. So what the Republicans are doing is saying, we're going to give a big, big tax cut to the very richest people who live in Illinois, who live in New York, who live in California, New Jersey, and so on. It's unfair. It's bad policy, and Republicans should get rid of it. I want to mention one other quick thing, and then you alluded to this as well, Dan. And Jeannie, it's great to be with you, by the way. I don't know what you're hanging out with Dan for these days, but and that is that we can't even get rid of these Green New Deal things. I mean, we can't even get rid of the crap, the solar subsidies and the wind subsidies and the battery subsidies and all of this stuff. They won't even now. They're going to phase them out. How many times have we heard that?
Oh God. Yes, right. That's the old Malcolm Wallop, right? When Malcolm Wallop, the senator from Wyoming, conservative, retired from Congress before the Gingrich revolution, so frustrated the party, he said, look, here's what goes on in D.C. If the Democrats introduce a bill to burn down the Capitol, Republicans would compromise and agree to phase it in over 3 years.
That's true. Well, and it was Reagan who said the closest thing to immortality on this earth is a government program.
Yeah, right.
He's right. I mean, how can you not get rid of these programs? And we're running a $2 trillion deficit, and they won't even get rid of. They won't even pick the low-hanging fruit.
Well, by the way, just one other thing on that, the subsidies. Are we subsidizing these Chinese solar power inverters where there were rogue communication devices found in them too? We can continue that. We're going to subsidize Chinese Communist Party espionage through inverters on solar panels. I mean, it's like Babylon Bee.
Well, how about this? That maybe now that the left hates Elon Musk, maybe we can finally get rid of the green car mandate. But it's become a three-ring circus. And if I were, my advice to these guys, hey, why don't you just get rid of all the deduction? Only 10% of Americans itemize their deductions anymore. Let's just get rid of all of the deductions. Let's lower the rates. Let's get to a flat tax and move on. And when we can't, they just love to look. Republicans love to play Santa Claus just like Democrats do. I hate to burst your bubble, Dan. I know you have such abiding faith in the Republican Party.
But, I mean, what's with Congresswoman Jen Kagan's actually trying to protect those green energy subsidies? She represents Chesapeake, Norfolk, parts of Virginia. Like that's a whole military issue. That's her issue, and she's on the House Armed Services Committee and all that. And she's what the heck?
Well, I'll tell you what. The Democrats are not. We're the stupid ones. They're not stupid. These people are not stupid. So what they did was they said, we're going to create all these stupid green energy, worthless programs that don't produce energy, and we're going to put them all in Republican districts. And it worked like a charm. And so now all the Republicans are, we love these programs.
Yeah. What do we got? We got picking up the baton that Mayor Pete left us to get to 10 or 11 charging stations for $7 billion over the next between now and 2029 or something. It's going swimmingly.
Don't make fun of Pete Buttigieg. He might be our next president. He's running.
Yeah, I've
because
heard.
He was such a huge success as transportation secretary. I mean, the guy even rode his bicycle to work. Come on.
I know they had a very nice relationship. Trump commented.
I mean,
on that.
but seriously, don't you think that the Democrats will use this against the Republicans, no matter how it cuts? And they're
that's what they're going to do, right?
Yeah.
They're going to go.
Don't I think Republicans?
they're going to demand this, $100,000 SALT deduction,
Right, and then say,
the Democrats are going to turn around and say they cut taxes for the rich.
Oh, of course. Now, here's the other thing that they're doing. No matter what concessions we make on Medicaid, and look, Medicaid, everybody, I think you've got smart listeners. Your listeners know that $160 billion a year is stolen from Medicaid. So these are some fraudsters. People who are not eligible for the program. Overall, there's $400 billion. These are the government's own auditors. $400 billion of illegal and false payment.
Yeah.
yeah.
Here's the thing. We had this in our hotline the other day. Under the current Democratic baseline on the budget, we are scheduled to spend $89 trillion over the next 10 years. Under that evil, cruel Republican budget, we spend $87 trillion over the next 10 years.
$87 trillion is heartless.
Which is why Ron Johnson's right. Ron Johnson's right. Cut the spending. Nobody wants this.
Well,
Trump will.
It's
not
everybody
nobody.
loves to play Santa Claus, but my point about Medicaid is though the Republican plan does not cut Medicaid. The Medicaid spending goes up every year, and they're talking about this tiny microscopic reduction. Oh my God, pregnant women aren't going to have prenatal care. We're going to have to shut down rural health, and people aren't going to be able to go to the hospital. I mean, it's outrageous. And so Republicans are retreating. Okay, we won't cut this program.
Yeah, right. Conservative stalwarts like Josh Hawley. So when does Trump weigh in on this, or is he just going to let them fight it out and path of least resistance, this whole thing, sign whatever emerges between the two caucuses?
Oh gosh, that's a really good question. I mean, that has to be what happens. Is that Trump has to weigh in here? Mm-hmm. And look, Trump ran for president saying, "I'm going to get rid of all these green energy programs." So he has a mandate to do it, and yet they won't do it. So many of these things. I mean, he did tell the American people, "Here's what I'm going to do if you elect me," and he got elected. And now the Republicans are running for the high grass, and it happened in the Reagan era. It happens, but you're right. Trump needs, if this is going to happen, Dan. And Jeannie, Trump needs to weigh in. It's his party. They do what he tells them to do. And so, but so far he hasn't really, because, he's off in the Middle East. So he's been a little preoccupied, but if this is going to happen and we get some kind of a decent budget. I mean, look, I want to remind your listeners, we're borrowing $2 trillion a year. This is not sustainable. It's outrageous. The spending is out of control. And the Republican budget, I'll say it again, instead of spending $89 trillion, that Republican budget spends $87 trillion. Jeez, that's like, what's the old saying? There ain't a dime's worth of difference.
Jeannie was about to bring up Ron Johnson, who we've talked to this week, and you saw the op-ed he penned for the Wall Street Journal. Mm-hmm. I mean, is Ron Johnson putting up a brave front and a worthy fight? But can
you know how many conservative Republicans there are in the Senate?
I could probably count them on two hands.
Yeah, two hands.
One and a half hands.
I mean, you got Ron Johnson, you got Mike Lee, you got Rand Paul, you've got Ted Cruz. You got a few. But look, I hate to burst your guys' bubbles. The Republicans don't want to cut spending.
Yeah, all right.
Come on, Dan. You know that. When have they ever done that?
The American people, though, when you point out, you've got, and I hate the word able-bodied adult, men or whatever.
Yep.
I hate it.
Yep.
No, these are people that should get off their ass and start working.
Right.
And they're just getting government benefits.
Yep. All right, Steve, I've got an idea.
Yep.
You ready? This is important because you're involved. We need to take a tactic of the left. We need you, Larry Kudlow, and Art Laffer to do a die-in in the Oval Office until Republicans cut spending.
Is this like a starvation diet?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, you lay down, you pretend you're dying.
That would last about 12 hours.
Stephen,
it is a little dismaying because Look, this is a three-alarm fire that's going on in Washington, and it's just we're sitting on the roof fiddling while the house is burning down, and it's amazing. And the media, by the way, has played a huge role in this. I mean, every single day I open up the New York Times or Washington Post, it's something else about these cruel Republican budget cuts, and it just makes me laugh because we're going to spend more money than ever before next year, even under the Republican budget.
Steve, well, one other quick question. Russ Vought, the OMB director, is going to write point on. He's going to write point on Doge. I mean, you know, he was one of the co-authors of the the slimed Project 2025. I mean, he's a serious guy when it comes to cutting spending, but does he have an audience there? I mean, with the caucuses, with even the president, when it comes to doing anything differently?
Russ is fantastic. He's one of our greatest OMB directors. He knows where the bodies are buried in the budget. I have nothing but respect for him. The budget that he came out with, the Trump budget, is fantastic. It's just that the Republicans threw that in the oven, and now they're starting all over again. So it's I love Russ, but it's going to have to come from Trump, and he's going to have to. But look, I mean, I hate to say that, even Trump, and I love Trump. He's not averse to spending money.
Yeah. Stephen Moore, economist, author of The Trump Economic Miracle and the Plan to Unleash Prosperity Again. Fingers crossed. Stephen Moore, thanks for joining us, as always. Appreciate it.
I guess the solution here is that we're going to have a Prof. Ives ticket for president in 2028.
Okay. All right. From the ridiculous to the more ridiculous.
One of you is going to be at the top of the ticket.
Stephen, thank you for joining us, as always. And you join us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM 560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile. Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160.